Winter 2021 had an insane amount of good anime, an extension of Attack on Titan, Promised Neverland, Doctor Stone, ReZero, that time we got reincarnated by a slime. But one of the shows that kind of flew underneath the radar that I thought was really good was Mushoku Tensei. This one gives a little bit of spin to the new isekai genre that we all love. That's not really new, but it actually is just that time I got reincarnated and kept all my memories in a fantasy world, and it actually became the strongest person in the world because I actually knew what I was doing and no one else kind of knew what they were doing. TM. I mean, the guy's not the strongest yet, but it's cool to see that he doesn't spawn and they're like, yo, this guy's the strongest, and us, we're just like, okay, I guess he's the strongest. So a little bit of a change is always good to see. Plus, it just makes sense if the guy can start learning magic before children can even figure out how to move their thumbs. It's like, all right, GG. I guess he just wins early game. There's not much you can do about it. Which is cool to see because he's not a blank slate. Most of the time, you kind of come in with the character, you see his backstory, you understand he's like a blank slate. He wants to be the Hokage or whatever. But this guy's just like, yo, my life kind of sucked in the past. I kind of just want to not mess up this one. And you're just like, hey, it's kind of relatable, so I appreciated that. And one of the funniest things about the whole show is that we, as the outsiders looking in, know he's not a blank slate, but everyone else is just like, wow, this is a kid prodigy, and this kid's going to be the greatest. And we're just like, yeah, I mean, he's kind of a D-gen, but I guess he's the greatest now, so that's cool. At least the greatest kid. That's why I think the show is setting up for the greatest redemption arc of all time. It has everything you need. A guy who's failing but is going to redeem himself. So, there you go. I mean, let's be honest, the guy's pretty low on the functional human contributing to society list. It showed early on how low of a low degen the guy is. I mean, he just plays video games all day, jacks off to hentai, doesn't have a job. I mean, describing most of us during quarantine. But something he doesn't do is show up to, I believe it's his mother's funeral, which is really bad, I would say. So you can kind of see, even though he's relatable, I would say he's still below the bar of what most of us would do. So, I mean, well, the ultimate redemption arc, it's brewing. So I think the story really plays good into the Confucius quote where we have two lives. The second one begins when we realize we only have one. But this is a little bit different because he actually had two lives, and then he realized that, well, he only had one. So now that he got a chance to get the second one, it's time to make the best of the second one. And I think that's just the point, is that most people want to live a fulfilling and happy life. So if someone was to die and then get transported to a fantasy world like every other isekai, and then the fantasy world just happened to have magic, they would be like, whoa, all right, time to actually do something with this, especially when he's the low, like I said, lowest of the low. So it's just super relatable. And the guy even still has trauma from his past, so even if we got transported to a fantasy world, we still all have baggage that we have to overcome. So the guy is a blank slate in most people's eyes, but the outside looking in, we're like, hey, this guy still has problems from his past, from high school, different things. And that's just, we all have that. So it's good to see that he'll have to grow past that and grow himself in the same world. And that would be his weakness. So he's a strong character, but at the end of the day, he still has problems from his past. And it's good to see that little addition in the show. The best part about the show too is it just makes sense. Like, even though he gets transported to a little baby, he still remembers everything, which is what a lot of us wish, back then we wish we knew what we knew now, so it would help us progress. And funny enough, that's actually the case for him, and it helps him progress a lot faster in the show. The guy also has a weakness of being a little bit of a perv, and he's actually a 30-year-old man stuck in a 14-year-old's, or not even 14 at this point, 8-year-old's body. And I don't know how I feel about this, but, I guess Freaky Friday was a good movie, so we'll have to see how it goes. I'm pretty interested to see how the ultimate redemption arc plays out, because even though he's strong now, it's apparent that he's not going to be to the level he needs to be. So he needs to work hard at this point in order to gain that. So even though he started out strong because he remembered from his past, now he actually has to work, which is something he didn't do in his past. So it should be good to see him actually progress and get better at things. So it should be very interesting to see what happens in the further seasons. So I'm pretty excited. So we'll just have to see what happens. I love the show and how it went so far. It was a super good twist on isekai, and I think isekai can be really good. It's just everyone wants to be in a fantasy world, and it's exactly how it plays out kind of in the show. He wants to be in a fantasy world too. So we'll see how it goes in the further seasons, and I can't wait to see more.